I'm going to go with you, and then I'll go to the next one.
I definitely feel that it's very hard to find a black man. Yes, there are black men around, but I don't want just any man. I want someone who's God-fearing. I want someone who has a job, someone who doesn't have 12 kids, and just overall just a well-rounded person. I think this area that we live in, it's hard to find, and so our pickings are slim, and I just, you know, it's been a hard thing to do.
For me, I think that some of the challenges has been more so compatibility. I think that in terms of, I have sacrificed in terms of life. I mean, I'm at a stage in life where I would like to have children, but if that doesn't happen, I've accepted that as well. But I think in terms of just trying to identify black love, I've lived in multiple cities. I do think that since I've been back here in upstate New York, it's a little harder in terms of identifying black love, in terms of the socioeconomic demographics here are a little more challenging in some of the cities that I've lived in. For example, when I was in Atlanta, I think that, yes, I did have an opportunity to identify and date black men. But here, since I've been back here, I think that I am encountering where I think I might have to be open when it comes to dating. Now, while my preference, of course, is black men, black love, but I do think I'm gonna have to be a little more open in terms of
I'm 42 years old, and I do want somebody who is probably at my same economic status or whatever, but they don't necessarily have to be. I feel like, you know, it would be, like Arleea said, very hard because some of the things that you want, and if they're not on that same level, you know, it'll always be unbalanced. So I just want someone who has the same drive as me. This is not all that I want. I want to keep climbing the ladder. There are more things I want to do. I want to see the world. You know, I want to, not necessarily that I have to live in a bigger house, but there are things that I want to do that is going to require finances. So I just want somebody who has a drive, and I believe if someone has a drive, you know, along with that comes, you know, that they'll want to, you know, be more prosperous and, you know, do those things.
I mean, I think that I like nice things, and I want someone, you know, to appreciate some of the things that we have common interest. As far as the drive and the ambition, I think that's important for you to have drive and ambition. But again, I don't necessarily think that you have to follow the same path. I do think that sometimes we, as black women, sometimes get in our own way, in the sense of what we envision all the time. It may not come in the package in which we envision. So I grew up in a two-family household, and, you know, from the values and things that I was taught, it may not come in that package in the same aspect in terms of when I go to meet a meet. But that's okay. I think that we can teach one another. So again, I think that as long as you're comfortable in your own skin, and again, that you have the drive and the ambition, I think that it can come together. So I don't necessarily think that you have to do and have the same track in terms of your background, but I do think in terms of where we're headed, we need to have a commonality there in terms of our interest. I do think that there are different stigmas that black women sometimes have in terms of we can be demanding and have attitudes and things like that. And I think that that's not necessarily all black women, and I think that sometimes we too get a bad rap in terms of having different stigmas that are not necessarily accurate.
I feel like some successful black men, they tend to date Caucasian women or wind up marrying Caucasian women. Not all of them, but some of them. And I feel like maybe what you said about the stereotypes of our attitudes and things like that do hold true for them. But I guess sometimes I also wonder with them because, you know, they grow up with black moms and even though he knows that they're not like that at this point in this stage in his life, he believes like they're just loud, attitudey, and, you know, he just doesn't want to deal with it. So, and I also think on TV, sometimes I've always wondered, like when you watch the Bachelor shows, and I'm like, how come we don't have a show, you know? And I honestly believe that the reason that they haven't had a Bachelor show, like with a black male, is because some of the things that we're not going to sit and fight over a man. Like I don't think as black women we'll sit there and just be like, you know, tonight he was with her and tomorrow he's with me and that's okay. I think that's something that some black women, I wouldn't do it. Like tonight you're with her and then tomorrow you're going to see if you want to be with me. That's something that I'm not going to do.
Culturally, you don't think that show would work for black women?
No. You?
I think I differ in terms of, I think that in terms of, I don't think The Bachelor and that type of show is a bad show. I do think in terms of, when I think of Real Housewives of Atlanta and those portrayals of black women, I think that they're bad. I think that sometimes we perpetuate things in terms of, you know, fighting with one another and, you know, so as far as The Bachelor, I don't think in terms of, yes, it is competitive. So if there's a show and we're going or vying for the same man, I think that's life. I think that when you're out and you're in a club or if you go to church, I think that those are things that does happen in terms of you do have to, I guess, sell yourself. So I don't necessarily think that I have a problem with shows like The Bachelor. I actually think that we probably would do well if we had a show like that for African American females and men to interact, as opposed to the depictions in terms of, you know, act like a woman, think like a man, and, you know, some of those things, while they're funny and they're humorous, I think it just perpetuates kind of the stigmas that are out there about our relationships and black love.
I just think that, you know, knowing that you know that he was with someone yesterday and that today, of course, when you're dating someone, you're open to date anybody and you can be dating or seeing 3 or 4 people at one time, but from what I've seen from the shows, these women, they're kissing, they're, you know, a little bit more intimate, and I don't think that would fly.
Again, we differ in terms of, I do think in terms of, yes, it's more visual, it's out there, they're showing you in terms of dating, and I think some of that is sensationalism for the show.
Right.
I think that when you're dating, it's just that, you're dating, so you don't know what the other person is doing. It's just the show is showing you all of those things. So again, I don't necessarily think, I think we don't necessarily have a forum for dating and black love, and that's what I would like to see. I think that actually perhaps we would benefit from it personally.
I would like to see it, but I just, you know, I don't know how realistic it would be. You know what I mean? So I would like to see it though.
I think if they find an educated black man and put him in a suit and say, I'm going to be the Bachelor, I'll be signing up. That's what I think.
Yeah, so I would love to see it, but I just, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to sit. I want to capture a man's attention, but I'm not going to, you know, fight or over him. I'm just not going to do that. Went to a Match.com was that a singles event where we both went together and just to, we were going to try something different, and it was horrible. There was one black guy probably out of maybe 30 or 40 white guys, and it's just, even though we were able to talk to all different people and different guys, it's not what, it wasn't what we wanted. For me, I don't know about you.
I just think in terms of, we went to the event and I think that we were trying to be open and in terms of thinking outside of the box when it comes to dating. Online dating is kind of the way that people are gravitating. But again, when we went, I think that, again, there was one, probably, black man, and he didn't give us the time of the day.
Yeah.
So it was probably quite the opposite in the sense of when we went to that. I forgot about that mixer event. So it was different. Again, I think at this stage, I think that you definitely have to be open in terms of where you might find your mate. Especially, I think that when you get over a certain age, it's harder in terms of meeting that mate in terms of from a work schedule and the demands of work. I just think it becomes a little more challenging.
And I actually think at our age now, since we're both 40 and over, that most black men, they're usually with someone by now,
Absolutely.
And so that becomes the choices for us become even slimmer because most guys are married by this age. So,
I don't think we're necessarily boxing them into one particular category, but there is definitely a shortage.
I think with a man, though, it's sometimes I really feel like timing. Sometimes you meet a guy and he's just not ready to settle down. Then, you could date him for a couple of years and then he's like, you're trying to get him to be committed the whole time. And then after you guys break up, someone comes along and they just marry them right off the bat. I think it's timing with a man, and also there's something that just at that moment makes them say, okay, I'm ready to do it now.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to identify some events where we can meet and mix, because I'm keeping hope alive. So while I like and enjoy having takeout with Shannon, I don't want that to be my fate, nor do I think that's where we're supposed to be. I do believe in black love. I do believe that there's someone for everyone. So again, I just think in terms of we have to figure out where and how we can get each other together and find out what are the concerns and what's happening. Where are you?
Yeah, I still believe in love, and I do believe one day I'll get married. I don't know when, but I look at my parents every day. They've been married for 45 years, and my dad is still in love with my mom. Like he does little things for her, brings her flowers and all the things that you want. And I think as a girl growing up, you envision that this is what men are like. And as I got older, I realized my dad was not the norm, and he's just something that clearly that I thought or I wanted in a man, but I had to change my attitude about my expectation, because a lot of guys are not like that, and I really had to change my expectation of a man. I won't say I had to lower my standards, but I know everybody is not going to be like my dad. And when I say like my dad, meaning that he's into my mom. He wants to take care of her. He wants to, do right by her. So that's what I look for.
But I don't necessarily think that men have to be like that anymore, because if we've already said that there's a shortage, I think that it's almost like they're the prize. And I shouldn't say everyone, but I definitely think if there's a shortage, and we're saying there's a shortage of black men for whatever reason, and there's a number of women looking for the same things, and sometimes I think that they know that.
Right. that is my desire. I'm not saying necessarily that I have to have that, or but that's what, if I could have a wish, that's what I would want. I would want a guy, who wants to be married, who wants to take care of his wife. I don't need a guy to take care of me, but I want somebody who wants to take care of me, and likewise I would want to do the same thing,
So our next meeting, I need to find 2 guys.
Absolutely. Get on it.
I have some preferences though.